Hey guys, so time to start a new project, and as you can see, I've got several things picked out here. I actually have, you may or may not be familiar with a kettenkrad is, but I've got 6 of them, and short answer is they're little Nazi trikes. They're cool, and I need them just for the sake of doing them. But I may hold off on those. I've got myself some dismounted machine gun teams for the Americans, because the Americans are long overdue. I've got this here Churchill, which if you've watched the video, you'll remember I actually won those back at the 2009 Origins. And I still haven't painted them because I want to do all the Nazis first. And my first American acquisition, which I got probably even before that, which is the American Rifle Company. And that's a lot of dudes. And that's not nearly enough, because that's just one platoon. That's not even a company. I should have said company. Which means that to make a full American force, well, there'll need to be some more dudes. But, you know, now I'm going to start the gluing process, and probably use the zip kicker to get things going, and it'll stink like high heaven, and then I'll move on to the rest of them. But, you know, here's what I'm going for from now. Ta! So, here we are. Decided to start with the Churchill first, as you can see. This one contains a mix of metal and resin pieces. From what I gather, the proportion of metal to resin depends on the age of the set. Some of them are pure metal, some are resin. I'll be honest, I prefer the resin because they're easy. You just wash them off, prep them, and ready to go. You don't have to wash them. Suppose it makes the paint adhere better. In the case of this one, I'm not really going to do it. It's not that big of a change as far as I'm concerned. And again, I'm going for table ready, not going for art showpieces, which I've seen at cons and some are extremely impressive, but that's just not my talent. Now, first off, as you can see, there are little bits and pieces like this fellow here, who's got this huge extension at the bottom that'll need to be cut off right there. You can see this whole part is going to have to be removed because he's supposed to be sticking out of the tank, and unlike many of the ones, particularly these multi-player units, the camera malfunction. There we go. We'll edit that out. And unlike some of the others, this one doesn't have tons of fiddly bits, but it does have, as you can see here, flashing that has come from the mold, and this is where the clippers are going to come in handy to snip those suckers right off of there. And I'll need to go around and do lots of that. Just to trim, that's pretty normal, and usually only takes a couple of minutes. But it's really important to do, otherwise when you paint it, these things will stick out like a sore thumb. Depending on how diligent you are, you may miss a few. It's not really a big deal depending on your personal preference. I don't care that much, but obviously, though I want it table ready, I don't want it to look stupid or ugly, so from the more metal pieces you are, the more flash you're going to get. This is another obvious advantage for the resin kits, because the resin kits rarely have any sort of flash or mistake, although they're usually not used for anything that intense. But the amount of flash that you're going to find on a metal piece is going to be much higher and more work. On the other hand, of course, the metal pieces are much sturdier. They hold the paint probably a little bit better, I guess, when primed. And they have more detail, I guess, a little bit, maybe. Certainly they've got more weight and heft to them, but I'm not sure they really care. So I'm going to start cleaning these off, and once I do that, I'll use one of these puppies to just sort of get rid of any excess if necessary. I've got this one's the rounded one, and the triangular shaped one here, as you can see, is good for doing flat edges, especially when there's some little stuff flashing that's left that just needs to be borne down. As you can see, if you do it too much, you'll actually scratch part of the metal off, so you've got to use it with some care. But really it looks like these just had a little bit of flashing on the treads mostly, and not a lot of things to worry about. For the smaller ones, that's where it gets to be hell, particularly with the individual figure minis, because you've got things all at this scale and have much more fiddly bits and much more stuff to trim off, so just by economies of scale it becomes annoying. So now I'm going to finish trimming that, and then I'll be gluing. As you can see with this one here, is a problem with the Zap-A-Gap adapter. I would love to use this small application piece, and I don't think you can really see this on camera here, maybe with a little light behind it, but the glue has dried in here, and while I'm trying to get it out, and I've actually put a thing down there to chip it out, the glue is still in there, and I don't think I'm going to be able to use it, because this is nice for real fine application, but it glues up, and after a couple of uses it becomes impossible. So, on to stage note here. You'll often find, as you can see here, the rather cryptic instructions, which take a little getting used to from the various indications. You'll notice that weird symbol there with the little dude. Well, if we look at the top of the tank, you'll see there's two gaps there. You're provided a small piece like this. There's actually two of them, but I've already clipped one off, like that. Those are actually meant to be covers for the root of the tank, because one thing that Flames of War does really well is gives you lots of options to customize a little bit. They just don't always make it clear to you that's what they're doing. So if one looks at the top here, you'll see there are two gaps. So I'm going to put the commander sitting there, popping out of the top, and I'll put the cover there. The common reason for doing that is because a lot of players use the presence of the commander as an indication that he's the little guy popping out of the top as an indication that he's the commander unit for a tank platoon. And so when you have 4 or 5 of them, that way you know who's in control. So just thought you'd notice that. And here we have it. A completed, or fully assembled in any case, Churchill tank. You'll notice, if you could see this overhead, you can sort of see it here. I don't know what they were thinking with this design, because there's only basically 2 little bumps that hold it on there, and there's carving space for where these were clearly meant to be designed to be form-fitting, and then they designed these tread sections to actually not fit in them. I couldn't tell you why that would be. However, it doesn't look too bad. The diagram also doesn't actually show a very good representation of these pieces, which makes me wonder if maybe these pieces here are not the original ones that came with this kit, at least when they first drew that design. However, otherwise, no big deal. Again, I don't believe in putting rare earth magnets in this. That takes way too much time. That way you can turn it when you're in combat, which is, what you do. But otherwise, it's fine. For all I know, this may be on upside down. I always never get any clear direction on the tank turrets. But in either case, another job done for Zap-A-Gap. You'll notice I did use a zip kicker here, but I only used it sparingly and really only on this bit here, because that one's just such a pain. Holding it for 10-12 seconds is a lot better than 30 or 40. I used it on this side, but I don't really need it to. This is a fairly easy one to hold into place until the glue dries. Whereas this one, all the fiddly bits are just a pain, which is one reason that's where zip kicker really comes in handy. So the next step will be to prime it, and then to paint it. And we'll be back with that. One other thing. You may have noticed I'm using those latex gloves, and I was using 2, which is why I wasn't filming while I was gluing. Take the word of one who knows. When you're using zip kicker and you're using Zap-A-Gap, you want these on your fingers, or you're going to have stuff that dries on there that will take days to get off. Just word to the experience from someone who's done it.